Hello my loves, I'm Ellie Frost, and on this channel we're talking about the multi-dimensional approach to rapidly and radically healing and transforming during and after narcissistic abuse. And this video is for you for when you miss the narcissist. Yeah? And I want to start by saying, right, that this is a very normal response to have to someone who's played a big role in your life, right? If it was, so I've made a video on here before called Abuse is Never Just Abuse, right? Because there are parts of the experience with the narcissist, yeah, that you may have really enjoyed. I know the narcissists that I got involved with, there were qualities in them. Maybe they weren't their true qualities, but when they were, love bombing me or projecting the illusion of who I wanted and needed them to be, I enjoyed that part of it. So first of all, no, there's nothing wrong with you, but this creates a lot of confusion in us, right? Because narcissists also do terrible, unacceptable and intolerable things to us, right? So it can feel confusing when we're feeling that we really miss them. Now, when are you going to really miss them? Probably after a final discard, if it's a romantic partner, you broke up, if you've got no contact with a parent or a friend or co-worker. So it's a normal part of it, but there's a few things going on that I want to talk to you about. One is obviously the trauma bond, right? Trauma bonding affects us biologically, chemically in our bodies, right? We feel a very strong pull to the person who caused the pain. We want them to be the ones to take it away, right? And in order to trauma bond someone, you have to basically shock them in some way or traumatize them in some way and have projected an illusion of being someone else to them at the same time, or be the person that gives them relief from that pain. So what happens is the narcissist causes the pain and then they're the one to comfort you, for example. It's like the Stockholm syndrome when, prisoners are put in the black hole and then they form a really strong bond to the person who gives them food. Even though that person is still their persecutor, they start feeling a very strong chemical, amount of affection and connection to them, right? Because when the narcissist has caused all the pain, they're the ones often that then they might not actually comfort you, but they'll come back in your life. They'll make you think everything's okay again. They won't generally want to talk about what they did wrong. In fact, the only thing they'll ever talk about is how your reaction was wrong most of the time. So we've got that going on. Why else do you miss them? Because narcissistic abuse happens in the psychic realm. Right? So the narcissist is self-detached, acting with an entity of consciousness we're calling narcissism, which is why they all act in the same ways, right? And sometimes they're projecting that energy on you, right? Sometimes you're under psychic attack, which means, I've done this move before on the channel, no consent. Use your body, use your breath, break trauma bonds. Contact me about my program Sovereign if you'd like to learn more about that. So that it's not always you, right, thinking the thought. Sometimes you're feeling someone else is thoughts and feelings towards you. So it's good to be in our bodies and to question, is this really me? Or, is that person thinking about me? Am I under psychic attack? And then say no consent in the psychic realm. The narcissist has often monopolized your life. They monopolize your time. They need all the attention. We often find ourselves isolated because they become the center role. Other people don't understand the nature of the relationship because it is a trauma bond based on trauma bonding. So they've often become very, very important in our life. I've talked to people like this before where, they find it hard sometimes to leave a narcissist, even though they know that their behavior is terrible. Like, it's not what they want to receive. They're, the majority of the relationship, you'll be being devalued, right? But, this person has become a focus, a very strong focus in your life, right? So just know that it is natural there's nothing wrong with you or any of us when we feel that we miss the narcissist. What we want to do is break the psychic ties, break the trauma bonds, right? Because trauma bonding is so dangerous for us because we're forming very strong attachments to people who are very, very, very bad for us, right? But missing someone who's been significant in your life and played an important role is a natural human response. So just know there's nothing wrong with you. What is confusing, right, is that we are feeling such a strong attachment to someone who we know on a logical level causes a lot of pain. And if you're feeling that way, that's because you're trauma bonded, right? We want to feel and form strong attachments to people who are really good for us. Yeah, we want our memories to be made full of relationships where, I was saying yesterday, where people support us, celebrate us, love us, where we feel loved, where we get to love and be loved, right? When we're feeling a very strong attachment to somebody who's hurt us very severely, right? We're trauma bonded. And that is something we've really got to put consciousness on and start then rebuilding ourselves, coming into sovereignty and like living our values and standards and boundaries. Yeah, because it's very unhealthy for us, very, very bad for us when we are strongly attached to someone who cannot do anything other, really, if it's a narcissist, than hurt us in the long run. They will hurt you emotionally, spiritually, energetically, financially if they can, right? Often physically as well. And we get sick in these cycles. So know that you're absolutely normal if you're really missing the narcissist. But what we also tend to do is romanticize. We want to go back to the shared fantasy. There's a video I did recently on the shared fantasy. We want to go back into the illusion of the future, narcissist future fake. They make promises they're never going to keep. They build an illusion and a lie. And during love bombing, which doesn't have to be a big gesture, it's just when they are pretending to be the person you need and want them to be, right? And they know what that is because they work in the psychic realm. So we tend to romanticize this. We tend to over exaggerate it in our minds, right? And ignore the terrible behavior that actually comes with this person. And that is called cognitive dissonance. And the idea behind cognitive dissonance is that the brain can't hold on to two opposing views. Like, it can't hold on to my dad loves me, my dad abuses me. So we tend to pick the one we want to believe, right? And if you find yourself justifying a lot, so maybe a partner or a friend is really bullied you, narcissists are bullies, but they do have fun with you. We tend to romanticize the things that we like about them and want to ignore the abuse. We might not even know it's abuse. I didn't really understand what abuse was until I got into my 30s, right? I knew my childhood was not right, but I wouldn't have described it as abuse because I thought if someone's not hitting you, they're not abusing you. That is not true. Emotional neglect is abuse. Emotional abuse is abuse. Bullying you is abuse. Any kind of invalidating your feelings and who you are is abusive, right? So we have to understand what this really is and what is acceptable and not acceptable. For me, I grew up with narcissists, so I had kind of normalized this. I didn't realize what healthy relationships should be, and I didn't realize how terrible to my well-being, right, this actually was. I like most of us, developed a lot of coping mechanisms, right? Like numbing out, like disassociating from my feelings, like disassociating from the situation, like focusing on the good, which is what we get taught a lot in personal development. And I'm all for healing and developing at the same time. That's what I teach, that's what I live for. But at the same time, when you apply these principles, they don't work with narcissists. With the narcissist, we're not supposed to be focusing on the good. We're supposed to be focusing on what is actually going on, the reality. We've got to take a reality check and not just focus on the good. We've got to actually look at the real situation with people, not what we want it to be, not a shared fantasy, not a future fate idea of when they get better or when they, next time. Actually, what is the behavior I'm dealing with? And is that acceptable and tolerable for me? Truly, right? Not logically, not just logically, but how am I responding to this? How am I feeling about this? How do I feel around this person? That's the most important thing. It's so much more important for us to know how we feel around people than to even know whether they're a narcissist or not. What matters is how you feel and how that person makes you feel. And if it's a roller coaster of highs and lows and building you up, then tearing you down, you're definitely with a narcissist. And it's definitely going to get worse over time, or it generally does. So I hope you like this video. Please keep liking, subscribing and sharing. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon.